Toward the beginning of the film, a gathering of children adventure into an illegal cavern to lead research. After 10 minutes, they notice something frightening. So one of the young ladies chooses to get out and call for help. Shockingly, when she comes to the top, she figures out that Earth has totally changed. There are enormous stone developments, dust storms are unleashing devastation all over, and, surprisingly, a spaceship is found nearby. This infers that in some way, more than 1,000 years have passed external the cavern while they're inside. The film then streaks back to how everything began. Archaic exploration teacher, Container, alongside his canine chief, are looking through adjacent the segregated arrangement of caverns. They go over a van which obviously had a place from the 70s. It turns out Container is looking for a gathering of flower children that disappeared many years prior, and the minivan had a place with them. As the hunt supervisor begins barks, as though he has detected something and needs to promptly return home. In any case, ignoring his desires, Container enters one of the caverns and finds a weird cattle rustler frozen in time. The man gives off an impression of being from an alternate time, which is obvious from his dress and weapon. Shocked, Container gets back in his vehicle and drives back home. There he is welcomed by his two understudies, Taylor and Jackie, who are eager to begin their new investigation trip. However, regrettably, Container lets them know that the arrangement has changed, so he will go alone at this point. Not long after, he accumulates every one of the vital things and returns to the cavern. There he finds an odd layer that isolates the environment between the rest of the world and the cavern. Albeit suspicious, Container enters the layer, and when he does as such, the frozen man begins moving. In the following scene, it has been 2 days since the understudies heard from their teacher, so they choose to search for him. In any case, since they don't claim a vehicle, Taylor is compelled to ask help from a young lady named Kara, who has eyes only for him. Kara promptly consents to bring her father's jeep, yet provided that she and her younger sibling, Vives, are additionally permitted to participate. To exacerbate the situation, the paleontology understudies are constrained to take another youngster, Furby, with them, as he and Vives are clearly going for their school project. Sooner or later, the gathering shows up at the spot and finds the neglected minivan from previously. On checking, they discover that the radicals the teacher was searching for are, as a matter of fact, his folks. They wandered into the arrangement of caverns a few decades back, looking for the wellspring of youth, yet stayed away forever. Then, at that point, they find an exhausted rope that drives them to an alternate piece of the cavern. Jackie follows the rope through a slim passage and figures out that it has been cut off. She additionally sees that the cavern dives exceptionally deep, and it is perhaps where the teacher has been lost. Taylor affirms that the rope is too old to even consider having a place with teacher Container, yet he regardless chooses to get down and investigate the cavern. The young ladies additionally choose to go along with him, while Furby is requested to keep watch, as he is excessively terrified of the dim. While descending the enormous cavern, Kara runs over a similar peculiar obstruction and illuminates Taylor that the temperature is different on the opposite side of it. In spite of this, they continue with their plunge until they at last arrive at the foundation of the cavern. Following this, the film scales back to 2 days prior, when teacher Container has recently entered the boundary. As he is gradually clearing his path through the cavern, out of nowhere, he hears a shout from inside followed by a startling cry. Frightened, Container begins running back and arrives at the entry, where he sees the daylight glinting in a bizarre way. At the point when he at last gets outside, it's now evening, notwithstanding him being in the cavern for simply 2 minutes. He then, at that point, rushes to his truck, however finds that it has been covered by congested plants. In fact, the entire area, which was once a desert, has been covered by thick timberland, suggesting that many years have passed since Container entered the strange cavern. Not long after, he runs over Kara's run-down Jeep and Taylor's rucksack, so he chooses to get once more into the cavern to search for them. Back in the present, the gathering investigates the cavern until they hear the very startling wail that Container heard before. Hiding in obscurity, they choose to leave their main goal and head home. Jackie goes first, and as she is climbing, the rope is unexpectedly cut off, making her tumble from a respectable level. As a result, she cracks her leg while Taylor, who was attempting to save her, breaks his arm. Then Taylor attempts to mine the subsequent rope. However, surprisingly, it has been cut off also. With this, they derive that Furby has been playing with them. A furious Taylor has a go at calling him from the radio. However, the kid doesn't answer back. At this point, the gathering has begun overreacting, and as they are conceptualizing thoughts to escape the cavern, an uproarious crash is heard behind the scenes. Maybe something tumbled from a higher place. Terrified, Taylor again attempts to make contact through the radio, and this time, a muted voice answers, "Help me." Taylor gets some information about the man's personality, and sadly, it ends up being Furby. Left without any choices, the gathering chooses to wander further profound into the passage until they run over where the sky is noticeable. Surprisingly, just like Container had seen before, the sun continues flashing continuously as on the off chance that day is transforming into night in the small part of a second. In any case, in spite of this, the virtuoso, Taylor accepts that Furby is pulling one more trick on them with his spotlight. Nonetheless, sadly, when they keep reviewing the spot, they find Furby lying dead as an afterthought. His neck has been broken, and a few dreadful imprints are noticeable all over. The sight wrecks the gathering, and they begin expecting that somebody is after them. Also, when Taylor finds Furby's removed rope, they become sure of it. Luckily, the gathering finds the young man's GoPro still in working condition and chooses to check what caused his death. In the video, Furby trusts that the gathering will return for a really long time. Yet without any result. He has a go at everything, calling them through the radio, shouting through each opening in the cavern, and in any event tossing rocks for a clue, yet never got any reaction. At the point when he gets exhausted, he meanders through the close-by region and runs over the Flower Children's minivan from the 70s, which has a diary inside it. The diary specifies that the baffling cavern contains a wellspring of youth, which can supernaturally recuperate individuals or, in any event, resurrect the dead. Furthermore, this is the motivation behind why Hooper's folks went into the cavern, as his mother was experiencing an uncommon type of disease. A couple of additional days pass by, and Furby has depleted all his food and water supply. Expecting that his companions are dead, he chooses to leave the spot. However, for that, he wants the Jeep keys from Taylor. Consequently, he chooses to move down the cavern and recover it himself. Yet, when he crosses the strange boundary, he sees the sky evolving quickly. Before he can get a handle on the peculiarity, the rope snaps consequently, bringing about a dangerous fall. This is the crash the gathering heard before. When inside the cavern, the radio beginnings working, so a harmed Furby gives calling a shot for help. Yet, sadly, this main draws the consideration of some apex predators, who show up there and kill him brutally. The recording leaves the gathering in a condition of shock, disarray and pity. They are baffled with regards to how Furby went through days outside, while it has just been 30 minutes for them inside the cavern. Presently, the gathering is frantic to escape the spot. Since Kara is a fit and not harmed, the one in particular, she is entrusted with free climbing right out of the monstrous cavern. Prior to leaving, Taylor gives her a reference point with the goal that she can caution the specialists when she gets a sign. After a touch of battle, Kara at last escapes the cavern. However, what she sees leaves her stunned. The region, which was once covered with thick green backwoods, has transformed into an appalling desolate land, with dust storms preparing somewhere far off. The oxygen supply is additionally extremely low, in light of which Kara continues to hack. Terrified, she scales to a stone and attempts to get a sign on the reference point. True to form, Kara gets no sign. Yet she sees an odd spaceship-like item drifting somewhere far off, demonstrating that the time has continued on by a few centuries. The fact that she didn't actually attempt makes exactly when her gets once more into the cavern, Taylor and the others disturbed. It would seem while Kara was outside for an entire 30 minutes, a couple of moments passed for the gathering inside the cavern. Maddened that her endeavors are not being valued, Kara shows her camera, which confirms her case that she did as a matter of fact head outside. In the video, the unusual abandoned world and the gigantic dust storms are apparent. At long last, that's what Taylor finds. For reasons unknown, the time inside the cavern is dialed back, and every time the sun gleams, it implies that one day has passed. He adds that this is the motivation behind why the ropes were being removed, as the grinding throughout the long term made them delicate. Hearing this, Beeves chooses to rewatch Furby's recording indeed, and when she does, she finds something stunning. In one of the casings, the sky is changing its tone, with the dim sky being the colder time of year and the light one summer. This presumes that consistently inside the cavern isn't a day outside. However, as a matter of fact, a whole year. The disclosure scares the gathering, and they become significantly more frantic to get away. When Kara restores her energy, she again endeavors to escape the cavern. Yet all of a sudden, a modern-looking stepping stool is tossed there out of the blue. Then, a monster outsider-like figure begins moving down it, provoking everybody to ease off. At the point when the outsider arrives at the cavern, out of nowhere, a primitive apex predator assaults him. A battle results between the two. However, the Goliath outsider effectively represses and attaches the alpha predator with a top-of-the-line electronic gadget. Then, he begins pursuing the gathering, making them escape with dismay. Sooner or later, Taylor and the pack show up at a puzzling spot where a gathering of apex predators are eating up their new casualty. It has all the earmarks of being a similar cowpoke from the beginning of the film. Tragically, the apex predators notice the people and start pursuing them. To purchase others' time to escape, Taylor makes a definitive penance and battles the monsters alone. Unfortunately, he is of no match, and the alpha predators fiercely polish him off. When they pass on the spot to pursue the others, Kara sneaks inside and gets crushed to see Taylor lying dead. As she sobs hopelessly, the Goliath outsider methodologies the two and hauls Taylor to a little pool of water, which gives off an impression of being the wellspring of youth. An amazing miracle, he reawakens, and the legend which was constantly giggled at by others ends up being genuine. However, before the gathering can cheer, the alpha predators return and begin going after the Goliath. This time, they dwarf him and even figure out how to take his head protector off, which leaves the Goliath panting for air. Fortunately, before he can be done off, Kara and Taylor assist him out and in the end trap the apex predators with his hardware. After the squabbled 2 or 3 attempts to help the monster up to his feet, yet fizzle. Maybe the oxygen inside the world's climate is noxious for him, making his inward organs come up short. Simultaneously, Vives and Jackie likewise show up there and notice the annihilation lying around. Prior to kicking the bucket, the monster shows a news report about the gatherings vanishing a few centuries prior. He additionally shows them numerous different clasps, which demonstrate that the day-to-day environments on Earth have become appalling, so the people have left for another planet. An extraordinary spaceship called the Curve is liable for shipping the people, and it is the very object that Kara had seen before. In the wake of giving this data, the monster dies. In the following scene, as Taylor scans the cavern for additional hints, he unexpectedly runs over Teacher Container lying harmed on the floor. In any case, what he sees next shocks him profoundly. Before them are a few different layers of time, which move at much more slow rates. In the primary layer, Container's folks are frozen, while in the more deeply layers, a few ancient men are battling each other to hold onto the wellspring of youth. Container then, at that point, makes sense of that the entire arrangement of caverns is intended to hold out people and different life forms back from utilizing the wellspring of youth. Taylor attempts to accompany him back to somewhere safe and secure. However, Container demands remaining there. Not long after, Taylor gets once again to his gathering and places the dead Furby into the wellspring of youth. Jackie additionally mends her harmed leg there. Be that as it may, similarly as they are going to leave, the savages again encompass them. With no place to go, the gathering chooses to utilize the cutting-edge stepping stool of the outsider. Kara goes first. However, when she arrives at the top, she figures out that the entry has been loaded up with water. Unexpectedly, an animal yanks her up, likely stirring up a lot of repulsiveness for the leftover gathering. Presently, Taylor and others are in a hazardous circumstance. Assuming they go up, the animals will kill them. Yet in the event that they maneuver down, the savages will eat them. A couple of moments later, a completely changed Kara gets back to the cavern and pulls everybody with a cutting-edge rope. Some time later, she likewise pulls Furby, Teacher Container, and his folks. It turns out the animals that pulled Kara before are really people that developed with the adjustment of time. What's more, regardless of Kara being away for only seconds in the cavern, she as a matter of fact experienced quite a while outside. In the last scene, the gathering is brought to the bend, which is on its course to search for another planet to live in. The circular segment is being constrained by developed animals who communicate in something else altogether. The film closes as the spaceship impacts into space, leaving the blue planet behind until the end of time.